Welcome to Success in Doses. I'm your host, Saleh. This podcast is about the real journeys behind meaningful careers, the pivots, the risks, the moments of doubt, and the lessons that shaped who we become. Each episode, I sit down with people who are building impactful lives and careers, and we break down the experiences that help them get there. Because success rarely happens overnight, it happens in doses. Let's dive in on Becoming on Purpose. Welcome back to Success in Doses, Becoming on Purpose, where we explore the decisions and experiences and mindset shifts that shape who we become. Today, I want to ask you a question. If someone had to describe your personal brand, would they describe who you truly are? Or someone who you've been trying to convince people you are? We hear the word branding all the time everywhere. It's build your brand, it's protect your brand, it's grow your brand. But I wonder if we've been asking the wrong question. Maybe the goal isn't to build the brand at all. Maybe the goal is to become someone whose values, reputation, the work speaks so consistently that a brand naturally flows. Today's conversation is about taking ownership of that story, that reputation, and the way the world experiences you. Because whether you're aware of it or not, you already have a personal brand. And the real question is whether it's working for you or whether you've left it to someone else to define it for you. As I was thinking about people, I wanted to help us facilitate the conversation around branding and taking charge of that. I couldn't think of a better person than the one and only Dr. Christina Madison. Dr. Christina Madison is a residency-trained clinical pharmacist, public health and infectious disease expert, reproductive health and justice advocate, award-winning media contributor, and founder of the Public Health Pharmacist and Press and Presence. With more than 20 years of clinical experience and over 250 television appearances, she is known for translating complex health information into clear, trusted, actionable messages. As a professional speaker, communication strategist, and brand consultant, Dr. Madison helps healthcare professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations strengthen their visibility, clarify their messaging, and build credibility and position themselves as the go-to expert through media strategy, thought leadership, branding, and public relations. You guys, please help me welcome the one and only Dr. Christina Madison. Hi, Christina.
Hello, Saleh. So nice to see you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And you are so right. I think a lot of times people are not asking the right question when it comes to branding. So I'm thrilled to be having this conversation with you today.
Oh my gosh, me too. Brand building and brand development. Every year working with students, I find that we end up spending so much time here. And I really wanted to use your powerful voice and posture in this space and proven experience and helping companies and people build it. I wanted to start with the most clicky term in this space, which is personal branding. What do you believe is the most misunderstood component about what it is and how to build one?
I think the biggest thing that I've seen is the fact that people feel like they have to name themselves something. Like your name itself is not good enough, which is absolutely not true. I've started really getting more into the professional speaking space. And one of the things that I've realized talking to professional speakers who don't have healthcare backgrounds, but are marketing and branding themselves, is they're just marketing themselves as themselves. Yeah. And so when they first start out, the first website that they have is just their name.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that I tell people when I first meet them is yes, you may have your own business. Yes, you may have a fancy name. Yeah. Obviously, the public health pharmacist was something that came organically for me because of the fact that I have this love and passion for public health. But a lot of people try to pull it out of nowhere. And it doesn't need to be that way. Just you by yourself can be a brand. I think about people like Mel Robbins and Brene Brown and, Tony Robbins. Before he had his big, signature program, he was just Tony Robbins and was facilitating these workshops and helping people to grow and be their best selves. And then he branded it. But ultimately it started off just as himself. And so I think that's one of the things I would challenge people to think about before they try to come up with some sort of catchy phrase or term. I'm this pharmacist or I'm that pharmacist or I'm this doc or that doc. You don't need all of that. Like you as yourself is enough. And you can definitely elevate that. It's just coming up with something that is meaningful and is really directly communicating to your ideal avatar. And so when I say ideal avatar, that's your ideal client. So who do you want to hire you? Who do you want to work with? And then work backwards from that. And then that's how you help to establish your brand.
Okay, so real quick, if you're enjoying this conversation, go ahead and rate and review the podcast. It helps more people find the show and keeps the conversation going. Okay, so let's get back to the conversation. My goodness, you've touched on two big things I need you to unpack. The first component is this idea that part of personal branding has to involve building a gimmick, a mascot of a sort to represent you. And it speaks to the power of authenticity and developing the brand. What do you think in your experience, of course, as a person who's been incredibly successful as building a brand that has endured all of the jobs you've had? I think that's one of the things I admire.
So many. It makes me seem like I'm unfocused, but I promise everything had a purpose and a reason.
And I think that's it right there. Like, I want you to share with us a little bit about how your brand, you've kept it evolving, but each time, no matter what brand and company you work with, you are bringing the thing. You're bringing the thing that is Dr. Christina Madison. Can you talk to us about authenticity's place and building a brand that can evolve as you grow?
Yeah. So the greatest example that I can think of is the fact that I have a sister brand, which is called Press and Presence, and that is all around public relations and PR and how do you promote yourself. And it really grew out of the fact that I was getting all of this media attention, but then didn't know how to navigate that space. I was getting booked on, places like Good Morning America. I was, doing segments for Wired, all these different things. And I didn't know all of the terminology. So, so for instance, when I got booked on Good Morning America, I did not pitch them. They actually reached out to me. They reached out to me directly through my website, which again is another, I would say, a promo for making sure that your digital footprint says exactly who you serve and the problem you solve. Because they told me when they found me that they literally just typed in pharmacist that does media, and that's how they found me. And
that's incredible.
Yeah. And so by the time they got to me, they already knew the product that they were getting because I had so many examples of other media appearances that I had on my website, as well as my first TEDx was on my website at the time when they booked me. And so that's like a huge thing. And so I basically became the person that I didn't have, which was someone, first of all, that was a minority, someone who was a woman, and understood why it was so important to have Black and brown faces on television, especially during a global pandemic, because we didn't see faces that looked like us explaining what was directly impacting our community. And so that's how my sister brand came to be. Because I kept having people come to me and ask me, how did you get this booking? How did you get that? How did you end up, doing an op-ed? How did you start with press releases? Like all of these different things. And it was out of necessity. And then, I would go on these, potential outings and they'd be like, oh, do you have a press kit? Do you have a SAG number? And I'm like, I'm not an actress. I'm a pharmacist. Right. So like when I got booked for Wired through Condé Nast, I got paid a non-union SAG rate for my time. So I got paid $300. And then because they flew me to New York and I filmed in New York, it ended up being, I think, a little over $200 because the state of New York took money from me. And also I had to have regular taxes. So like just things like that you would never even have thought of when another thing that started as well is I had to hire an entertainment attorney.
Gotcha.
I'm not an actress, but I needed somebody to help me with contract negotiation. So one of the things that I did when I first started out was I was a spokesperson for a mask manufacturer. And when they gave me the original contract, it had that they could use my image and likeness in perpetuity, which basically means forever. But I didn't know that at the time. And so I had a friend who I was just talking to, and she was like, oh yeah, when I did all my contract stuff, I hired this guy. And I was like, okay. So of course I reached out to him, and he was like, oh no, this is ridiculous. He's like, we got to change all of this. And so it was great because not only was I able to get more money for the contract, I was able to solidify the deal so that they couldn't continue to use my image and likeness beyond the time frame that I was under contract for them. So it was just these things that I didn't realize around IP. And that's the other thing with branding that I want people to know is that it's your IP that you're protecting. So when you think about your brand, think about your intellectual property. And then once you have that system, framework, whatever you're known for, you need to make sure that is protected. And you protect that through making sure that it's trademarked.
Okay, so real quick, if you're enjoying this conversation, go ahead and rate and review the podcast. It helps more people find the show and keeps the conversation going. Okay, so let's get back to the conversation. The overwhelming advice out there about building a brand and all of that is how just be yourself, just be authentic. Is that enough? Or is there a component of this that really has to account for intentionality? As you've said, you really have to know what you do and who you do it for, because that's how that collision happens more effortlessly when you kind of understand. I just wanted you to talk a little bit about the role of intentionality. Yes, authenticity is important, but how important is it to couple that with a little bit of planning, strategy, and authenticity and intentionality?
So the first thing I want to say is niches get riches.
Yeah.
The more niche you are, the better. So you need to be real clear on who you serve, the problem you solve, and the transformation that you guarantee.
Yeah.
So that's number one. So you can be authentic from here to kingdom come, but if you are jack of all trades and master of none, nobody gonna hire you.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing that I will say as far as that intentionality is that not only do you need to identify what you want to be known for, but what do people know you for?
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things that pushed me into creating a third business. So I also have an accessories brand. And so people would keep telling me all the time. So my husband would say, he's like, honey, you're so fashionable. You're such a fashionable pharmacist. And I just thought that was the funniest thing. And then he turned around and bought the domain name and gave it to me for Christmas and was like, you need to do something with this.
He is right.
He did the same thing with me with the public health pharmacist too. He bought the domain name before I ever started the business.
That's so cool. That's amazing. No, for sure. I see you and I'm looking for the hairband. And I see you and I'm already. I love it. Yeah. Because I think that today, when you think about how easy it is to create a social media account, you think that the growth, it just happens. Because
it is nurture. You got to nurture it, and consistency. That is the key.
And I think that the overwhelming advice there is just start doing it.
No, I was super intentional. So when I launched my business at the end of 2019, I was still I still had a W-2. I had my own I had my full-time job. I was working in academia, but I planned everything out. So the website launch, all the social media channels, everything I launched on the same day. And all the branding was consistent. My colors, everything was the same across all platforms. And so it was really intentional. So yes, I agree that you have to start somewhere. But again, going back to what are you known for versus what do you think people know you for?
Yeah.
Because that's the part of the digital footprint that I think a lot of people miss. And so one of the fantastic opportunities that I have, and one of the things I want to tell people is you can do anything with a PharmD. So that I am a firm believer that because I've had my PharmD, it has opened so many doors for me, doors that I never would have thought would have happened. And so one of the opportunities that I got recently was that I have now started doing courses for Verizon Small Business, which is their digital readiness course. So it's a free webinar service through Verizon Small Business. But the last course that I did, which was wildly successful, was on DIY public relations. So as a small business, how do you do public relations on a budget? And so And one of the things that I'm talking with all of these businesses is a bunch of people put their businesses, they dropped them in the chat. And then I looked them up and I was like, you're telling me that your business is known for this. But when I look you up, that isn't what your digital footprint says.
Yeah.
So you really need to get clear on that. And so, yes, it is good to just start, especially if you're worried about being on camera. It is the more practice makes perfect. But you need to have a clear line of how you are bringing value to your audience.
Yeah.
And so you can't, like I say this before, like when people want to sell something, they're a little too aggressive. And so in the biz, we call that pitch slapping, right? Like you don't want to just hit somebody across the face with it, right? You need to give them something of value before you sell to them.
Yeah.
And that's really what this is about. So how are you creating value for your audience before they ever buy from you?
100%. Like that exchange, that credibility, that buy-in, how do you establish that so that the person you're talking to, they can already clearly see how taking things one step further is going to be widely beneficial for them? Let's talk reputation for a bit.
That's a big one.
It's a big one. And I think in healthcare, in pharmacy school, they tell you, oh, there's like 6 degrees of separation between all pharmacists. And so you don't want to burn bridges. And it goes to the heart of the case about reputation. How critical is it to build, maintain, and nurture a reputation as part of somebody's branding, whether it's a mature one or it's a baby one that's just starting out? What's reputation's role in that process?
Well, first and foremost, I would say it's not just specific to pharmacy. I would just say in general. So because I work in the public health space, I work in the communication space, I work with a lot of folks that have public health degrees. So MPHs, doctors of public health, epidemiologists, nutritionists. I'm part of this group called the Evidence Collective. And one of the biggest things that I love about working with these group of communications and scientific communicators is that we all advocate for one another. And so my one girlfriend, she got asked to do a media press hit on Trump RX. And she was like, I do not feel comfortable doing this. Can I send them to you? And so that's the reputation part. So I have an opportunity that I can give to someone else because I know, like, and trust you and know that you're not going to mess it up.
Absolutely.
And this is with somebody who I have not known that long. I've only known her for a couple of years, and I just met her for the first time in person just the beginning of this year in January, because I went to an event that Yale School of Public Health was hosting. And so we all got together and, our group got together and it was just amazing. But the point I'm trying to make is it doesn't necessarily matter how long you know the person. If you have that established trust and work ethic, people will go to bat for you. And the other part of this too is that you need to go to bat for other people as well.
100%.
Because that's the challenge that I've seen, especially within pharmacy, that people feel like there's not enough opportunity and there is enough pie for everyone. So even if you and I are doing the exact same thing, it doesn't matter because my version of it is always going to be different than yours because of my lived experience.
100%.
And so when I go to these opportunities, I never forget the people who got me there. Another opportunity, I gave the keynote for the New York Society of Health System Pharmacists Conference this year. Do you know how I got that gig? Because of somebody who worked with me at ACCP 10 years ago on the women's health PRN.
Wow.
So that's why you need to continuously show up as your best self every time, because first and foremost, you never know who's listening and you never know who has to hear what you have to say. So
you
always
don't.
say your intentions, right? Something else I can say. I was at the National Pharmaceutical Association conference. Very first time I went to the MPHA conference. And I was meeting all these new people and I got introduced to a dean and I just happened to think and I was like, and this is in the summertime. They always have their meetings in the summertime. And I was like, you know what I've always wanted to do? And he was like, what? And I was like, I've always wanted to do a commencement speech. And he's like, well, I can help you with that. And I was like, what do you mean you can help me with that? And he's like, well, I'm the dean. So, I can bring in whoever I want. And I was like, okay. And it was just, this is like first time meeting this man. And he was like doing it. And again, I just said what I wanted. And he was like, I know how to help you.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he followed up with me. And that very next May, I gave the commencement address for the white coat ceremony for Texas Southern University, which is one of the most historic Black HBCU colleges of pharmacy for pharmacists, and probably produces more Black pharmacists in the country than any other.
Yeah, I love that you share that story, because I always tell all of my mentee, I'm like, if there is ever a question that you should always have a prepared answer to, is when someone asks you, how can I support you? You need to be ready to fire. And you can't in that moment squander the opportunity of someone opening up their heart, their network, their access, their political capital to say, what are you doing at the moment and how can I support you? If you are not prepared for that question, no matter where you go, you're going to miss an opportunity. And the other thing that story also highlights is closed mouths don't get fed.
That is one of my favorite things.
Have to be vocal about your aspirations and really let go of how other people are going to judge you for and be like, oh, that's a pie in the sky idea. You're never going to be able to do that. And I love that you just share that, because I hope like somebody listening is encouraged by that and know that these are not like one-off things. These are happening in real life for everyone and people. I thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it again. Anybody need a commencement speaker for next year? I'm your girl.
Look no further.
I don't want to be a one-hit wonder.
Never. If anyone's seen you speak, that's not one of the categories that you fall in, because it is such an experience. Every time I see you on your calendar, I don't care if it's at 7 a.m. I'm like, Christina speaking. I got to go see her. It's such an experience. I love, love, love being in the audience when you speak. What do you believe strengthens a brand? You've helped people build it. You've built one successfully. What strengthens a brand? Okay, so real quick, if you're enjoying this conversation, go ahead and rate and review the podcast. It helps more people find the show and keeps the conversation going. Okay, so let's get back to the conversation.
Social proof.
Yeah.
So we got to talk about social proof. So that comes from a couple of different places. So not only do we want to establish our brand and to say what we are known for, but it's even better when other people say what you're known for. And so it's that social proof that comes from being invited on podcasts like yours. It's that social proof of being a guest blogger or, being able to contribute with someone else's Substack. So that's another thing that I really I've gotten a lot of traction with, is because I'm part of this group of scientific communicators, we all collaborate. And so it's opened my brand up to a whole other group of people that probably would never have heard of me, because I'm going in through the social proof that other person brings in when they ask me to contribute. And so the collab it's all about the collab. So the social proof is huge. And then also testimonials. Like if you're working with people and they are raving about you, but you don't document that is a missed opportunity. So
I'm guilty.
Yes. You need to be getting all of those testimonials, girl.
I'm guilty of that. I'm like, I don't want to but I get the feedback. They always give me the feedback and I use it to like improve the following year, when really everybody's like, girl, you need to push this out. Like people should know that others that have gone and worked with you, that they experience this type of transformation or help. So that's the advice that I'm definitely taking and will apply. What about damaging a brand? What's been some of the most easiest way you've seen people just fracture a brand that they've worked really hard to build?
Not all money is good money. Let me start with that.
Girl.
So that is the first thing I will start with. And what I have seen is that people will try to take a paycheck because they think the money is good, not realizing that they're aligning themselves that someone is going to damage their personal brand.
Oh my God.
And so that is what I have seen. I have seen people that I respected, thought were like, I was over the moon. And then I was like, why are they platforming somebody who has these horrible ideas and someone who obviously is not an advocate for minorities, an advocate for women. That is the quickest way to
Mm.
damage your brand, is to align yourself with someone who does not have similar mission or vision or passion as you, or is in direct contrast with what you are
Yeah.
actively advocating for. So I'm not going to go on a podcast
Mm.
or be part of a group panel with people who are anti-vaccine or people who are anti-public health, right? Like that's going
Yeah.
to damage my brand. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people, always do your homework and
Mhm.
always follow the money. So if
Mhm.
you are being asked to do something, ask why. What are they getting out of it? But then also, what are you getting out of it? And so if it's
Yeah.
not elevating and it's not putting money in your pocket and it's not giving you another opportunity, you should not be doing it.
Yeah, it has to be mutually beneficial. I've had to learn that the hard way because I'm a yeser. I want to help. I want to, and it's kind of like one of
Not
my
everybody
mentor.
deserves it.
That's what my mentors, they tell me.
Sorry
They're
to say
like,
it, but not everybody
yeah,
deserves your time. Not
yeah,
everybody does. You really need to screen.
yeah,
And especially nowadays, our time is so
yeah,
valuable.
valuable.
You have kids, I've got kids, like
Yeah.
we've got families. Like you got to be really deliberate about
Yeah.
where you're spending your time and who is benefiting from your expertise.
100%. For the person that is listening to this podcast and it's their very first, because they live under a rock, obviously, and it's like their first time ever hearing Dr. Christina Madison, what is something you hope people experience when they come in contact with you or work with you? What is the Christina Madison experience for you?
Well, let's see. I am as educated as I am fashionable. I think that's I think that's what I get a lot, is that people
Yeah.
expect something different to come out of my mouth
Yeah.
because of how I present myself. And they're like, oh, here's this girly girl. She likes to wear crowns on her head and she's always camera ready, which is also not the
Yes.
truth, by the way. I've got plenty of videos on my Instagram that are not camera ready, but the information needed to come out. And so I
Yeah.
was like, doesn't matter what the face looks like. We gonna do this thing today.
Yes.
But that's the point. I think I feel like sometimes I get underestimated because of the
Yeah.
fact that I am older. I'm fully in my 40s, but I don't look like I am. And so
This,
there's this disconnect when people are like, "Oh, like you've been doing this for how long?" And then they try to like think that I'm a lot younger than I am, and I'm like, "Girl, the math is not mathing." Like if I told you that I've been a pharmacist for over 20 years,
yeah.
I am not Doogie Howser. So you got to do, you could put a few numbers together and realize that has got to at least equal something around 40, right? And
Oh
so
my
that I think
gosh.
is probably the number one thing, is that I'm often underestimated, or if people just see my name or my
Yeah.
credentials and they haven't met me in person, they don't think that the name matches the face. So
Wow.
I've gotten that sometimes as
Yeah.
well. So
Oh my goodness. Yeah, like the first time you told me, "Oh, I've been a pharmacist for over 20 years." I remember I was like, "You can't say that out loud because people are going to think, you know that Christina, she be telling tall tales." You
no,
can't believe.
you can go and look at my degree. It's my diploma is on my wall, and it says what year I graduated.
I
So
not believe. I just couldn't fathom. I was like, there is no way. Because you look freaking amazing.
very
Always.
kind of you. I attribute that to two things: genetics, and then
Yes.
also because I didn't start wearing makeup until I was in my 30s.
Wow. Okay. We get
Yeah.
branding advice and we get skincare advice. Thanks, Christina.
Korean skincare.
I need to get into
The
it. I'm
K beauty is all, it's all about the K beauty, honey.
Oh my gosh. I ask every guest this question, and it's about one dose of success advice you would have for somebody that is starting to build a brand. It is 2026 today, and they're like, I want to surface as, or I want to build something. I want to be known for X. What is one dose of advice of success do you have for the person that is just starting on their journey of brand building and brand development?
I would say to embrace the messy yes, because that is the
Mm,
thing that I really truly feel like has helped me on this journey, is that I
yeah.
didn't have everything figured out in the beginning, but I knew that I needed to make an impact and I knew I needed to show up for my community. And so when I first got asked to do a lot of media appearances, the first thing I said was, of course, yes, I've done this before. I lied. I completely lied. I showed up. I was very prepared. I was able to answer all the
Oh my
questions.
gosh.
But at the time that I did it, I had never done an in-person live in-studio appearance. I had never done that before. I
Wow.
had done plenty of clips here or there, like I'd been interviewed kind of like on the sidelines because I had been part of my immunization coalition, and they took and they made sure that all of us were, media trained, but I had never done an in-person live
Yeah.
appearance. And it's very different. Like for those of you guys who have never done this before, and then also my most recent one that I did on Trump RX, that was live. And I was having to listen to the president's press conference in real time. And then they cut to me to comment on it in real time. And I was like, yeah. So I was like feverishly writing down things
Notes.
and like
Yeah.
looking at my notes. Like my notes were like right here, right off the screen. And so, yeah, it's embrace the messy yes. You don't have to have everything figured out, but you do need to do your homework. And
Yeah.
if there's someone else out there that's doing something similar to you, don't let it discourage you.
Yeah.
Remember that it's always going to be different because your lived experience is different, but you don't want to steal someone else's idea either. So be
No.
really careful.
Cool.
Make sure that you do your homework so
Yeah.
that it doesn't look like you're copying someone else's brand, but
Yeah.
then also collaborate with people. Like
Yeah.
start there. If you're not sure where to start, find somebody who's doing similar work to you, who's very mission and vision aligned, and ask them, how did you get started? Where did you find, the information that you felt was most useful? Do you
Yeah.
have, is there anything that you think that I should know? Or, like I went back to school, I got a certificate in public relations, like, those kinds of things. And even when I started my, my accessories brand, I was like, I don't know anything about distribution. And then I get hit with a bunch of tariffs. So, so you just got to kind of embrace it and not let the tiny setbacks make you feel like you can't do what you need to do.
Thank you so much for the nuggets. Thank you for always being you. I appreciate your voice posture and authority in the profession as a whole, but also the advocacy and the social impact component that you've built into everything that you do makes you indispensable in a way that I hope you are aware and that you know is appreciated. As those of us that are still coming into our own in this profession, it is encouraging, it is empowering, and it is very emboldening to see other people like yourself that are doing it. And each time I see you, it's always such a vibe, so positive, so encouraging. And I wanted to say thank you for lending your incredibly powerful voice to this platform. And thanks for doing this tonight. I appreciate it.
Yes. And one more tiny little nugget that I will leave with, because I know that you have done this and I'm very impressed with it. One of the best things that I have done and invested in my business is professional photography. So
Yes.
good headshots and
Yeah.
lifestyle photography.
Yeah.
You will get so much use out of them,
Yeah.
making sure that you have a branding media kit, all of
Mhm.
that. Yeah. So, and you do it very well, my dear.
Thank,
So
thank,
I just
thank
wanted to
you.
give that little shout out,
Thank
little
you.
touch for you.
Let's thank you.
'Cause
That
you
means a
doing
lot.
it, girl. You
Oh,
doing it.
thank you so much. For everybody, you will have in the show description all of the various ways you can connect with Dr. Christina Madison directly on all of her socials and channels. I will make sure that how you find her is going to be grossly easy in the show's notes and description. But thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me, Sally. And please
Oh,
keep shining. Keep up the good work. We need you.
thank you. Now that it is just us, I can't tell you how incredible it is to have Christina be a guest on this podcast because she is one of those folks that I have always looked up to. If you've never met Christina, when you meet her in person, the same exact energy and bubbly person that she is online, it's all of that that comes to life for you. today, she shared some insight with us about the ways we build our brand and authenticity's role in that. But not just that, she also talked about the fact that there has to be some strategy and intentionality behind the brand building. You can't just throw a bunch of things at the wall and hope it works for the best because, and she gave us this nugget, we have to get clear about what it is that we do and what problem is it that we are solving so that the brand that we work on building is an accurate representation and a direct reflection of that mission. But to create something or feel like we need logos and colors and website or a mascot and creating a completely different avatar and version of who we are isn't necessarily the best strategy for building a brand that is going to endure. Something else she talked about today that I think stuck with me is the fact that not all money is good money. This is really, really important because I think, especially if you're a person who creates content, you put a lot of work and energy into it. It's important that our partnerships are strategic and they align with who we are, our beliefs, the things we care about. She also talks about the fact that we need to be comfortable with saying yes, even when the next steps aren't figured out and clear. As pharmacists, those of us that are pharmacists listening to this will relate. We have to know what's going to happen next before we even take the next move. And seeing Christina here kind of reassure us validates that the messy yeses, as she puts it, are a part of the journey. She told a story today about how being vocal about what she wanted and what she desired to do opened the door for a really major opportunity for her. I've said this several times on this podcast. We have got to become comfortable and a little less afraid about talking out loud to people, to others, about what our dreams and aspirations are. Because reality is, the person who is perfectly positioned to help you doesn't have like a flag on their body to say this one is safe to talk to about your dreams and this one isn't. So the courage and where we find that courage is by really and truly believing that the things that are meant for us will be ours. In fact, they will find us no matter where we go. And personally, I rely on that heavily in making sure that I don't get selective and I don't fall into the trap of competitiveness with figuring out who do I talk to, who do I collaborate with, what are my dreams and aspirations, and why it's okay to talk about them out loud. Because my hope is that someone out there will hear those hopes and dreams and will play a pivotal role in helping me accomplish them. I am so grateful to Christina again for taking the time to lend her voice to this podcast. I am so grateful. But I want to thank you for choosing us to start your Monday morning with. I hope you heard something today from Christina that inspires you to show up a little more confidently, bolder, more confident, and making sure that you are going after all of those things that you know you can do, and nothing should stand in your way of accomplishing it. I'm grateful for you being here this morning, and I cannot wait for you to return for another absolutely amazing episode of Success in Doses, because big changes in our lives, they don't happen in leaps and bounds. It really takes small, incremental, and intentional steps that we take every single day that add up to something absolutely amazing. Have a wonderful rest of your week and make sure you're showing up for you. Okay, bye. If this episode gave you something to think about, something to hold on to, or even something to act on, I want to ask you for one more thing. Take a moment to rate and review the podcast. It feels really small, but it's actually one of the biggest ways you can support this show. It helps more people find these conversations and become part of this community we're building right here on Success in Doses.